So here's the basic adaptive tech process. First thing is we need to understand our users. So we're going to create categories or buckets to understand the similarities and the differences between our users. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to layer in context. So we need to understand what are people doing, when, and where. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to create rules to help personalize content based on what's important to that particular persona or user. So we deliver the right kind of content for the right user at the right time.
So the first step, segmenting website visitors. There's a lot of different ways to do this. It's going to depend on your implementation, as I mentioned. But at a very base level, even if you're not willing or able to take a big leap into new technology, you can use something called the user agent string that the browser delivers about every single visitor that comes to your site. These are analytics or data points that you're typically used to seeing in your analytics because they're so readily available. Things like the IP address and the geography that that visitor is coming from, whether or not they're a new or returning visitor, what device they're on. And then, of course, you're going to layer in any information that you have access to from your platforms, like logged in users, obviously, are going to have an actual identity that we can correlate if they have purchase history with us, et cetera, et cetera. So there's different sort of levels of segmenting, but the idea here is we're going to try to get them into a bucket. Once we have them into a rough bucket, we can start to factor in some more information. So what's going on around them? I mentioned earlier holidays or their data or anything that we can sort of use to wrap around and guess what's going on around them. Where did they come from? Did they click a specific keyword or a campaign to get here? Can we start to make some inferences about their goals? And then once they're on our site, can we track site search and browsing patterns to try to make guesses about what content they might need? Once we've sort of put people in buckets and given them an identifier of some sort, we can store that data client-side as cookies or in a URL or in local storage. And these are all training wheels approaches that are pretty straightforward and don't involve a giant, heavy platform doing the work for you. And then you personalize. So I'm going to walk you through a couple training wheels examples that I think show a spectrum of personalization you can do. So we'll show a welcome screen that we give logged in users, changing imagery based on where someone's visited on the site, optimizing resources around someone's geographic location, and customizing product selection. So the whole goal here is to match customers to content and try to remove extraneous content whenever we can to make the path to purchase simple. So I was really delighted when I found this welcome screen after I visited Saturday.com. I'd shopped there a couple weeks before, revisited the site, and I wasn't logged in at this point, but they had obviously put an identifier on me and not just welcomed me by name like you're used to seeing, but they also took the zip code, I'm guessing, from my billing profile and layered in a generically available weather report to let me know that this Saturday, which correlates with their brand, it's going to be 91 degrees with chances of a thunderstorm, and that they could offer me this lovely umbrella if I didn't have one. And so I found it pleasant that they layered in some helpful information instead of a lot of things that they could have done with my data, which brings us to a really good point. I want to take a side note and talk about privacy and the creepy factor. It would have been pretty creepy if they'd said, hey, we know exactly where you live. But they do. And instead, they sort of made it feel something friendly, matched the tone of voice of their brand. And I think this McKinsey quote is really useful when you're getting this pushback from your team or wherever, that customers are actually really willing to provide data, provided that they believe the company is going to use it to be helpful. So we see this all the time. People are giving companies their sleep habits and how many steps they've walked and what they're eating on a daily basis, because in return they get something that they find valuable. So there isn't really a limit to what data you can take and use. Just consider how you can use that data to be perceived as helpful to your end user.
It's about the insights that you can gather from the data in a way that makes sense.
Absolutely. OK, so back to examples. Maybe. There we go. So Power Service Products is a diesel additive company that serves everybody from the entire Walmart trucking fleet to your average Jetta driver. And when we worked with them, they really struggled to find imagery and content that felt like it served all those verticals well. So in their case, what we did is as visitors navigated through the consumers or industry section or picked different content in the Learning Center, we made a guess about who they might be, what vertical they might be interested in. And throughout the site, the imagery, as well as the Learning Center content, all sort of changed and reprioritized itself to try to reflect who they are and what we thought they might be trying to accomplish. Really minor changes. All the content was still available, but trying to make people feel like it was really made for them.